A gasp! Howdy, folks. Let's see. I spy on a satin chat. Whoa. Much excellence. I hope y'all are doing good tonight. I know I am. Hanging in there. I love the middle of the week where we come to fry our brains. Or at least that's what we're going to be doing this evening. More 30 Days Lost in Space. Much excellence. So I would have included this in oh, my tracking is drifting. Hang on a moment. Let's see. And boop. There we go. I'm more centered now. We would have done this last time, but I didn't realize there was a side quest attached to day 12. So apparently there's a side quest to bring one up to speed. Last time we played with the keypad and the buzzer that was attached to the board. So without a further ado, let's do stuff and things. Boop. Okay, so this one's a little different than the usual setup for one of these. It just says, quickly insert the incoming broadcast into your Arduino IDE. I know the Intergalactic Space Association won't let me down. Desert me. Why does that sound familiar? Interesting. So let's see here. It says that we need, our wiring should be the same since it's a sub step of day 12. Give me one moment. I think I changed the scaling on this. There we go, full screen view. That's better. I can see it now. So, this is, let's see here. More information on the GitHub. Ooh, there's other songs we can go get. Okay, well that kind of gives us a bit of a hint. And then looks like we define our note in a number associated with the note. And there's a lot of them, which makes sense because if you're defining, I would imagine the all the different notes that we need. So let's see here. So we have a tempo of 114. Change this to whichever pin you want to use. I didn't change the wiring, so 10 should be fine. Notes of the melody followed by the duration. A 4 means a quarter note, 8 is an eighth, 16th is so on and so forth. Negative numbers are used to represent dotted notes. So a -4 means a dotted quarter note. That is a quarter plus of an eighth. Well, I can tell you right now, I'm not going to remember or kind of get that. I know what this is. Oh my god, I can't believe they actually put that in here. All right, I'm not gonna read that out loud. I'm just gonna do it. All right, hang on. I gotta start us a new project. Okay, we're going to save as. Day 12A. Close out day 12. Before I do anything, let me actually clear the code that's on there right now. So I'm just going to empty a blank project to it. It's already connected. I turn around to make sure that to be true. Okay, so we're gonna grab all the notes. Actually, we're just gonna grab, this is one of the few times I'm just gonna grab the whole project. Normally I would gut this, but this is a song, so I don't necessarily think there's a whole lot I'm going to say here that we're not going to see here in the terminal. All right, so we have the definition of all of our notes. And then rest, and then note, and then another note, and the length of the note. Interesting. Okay. Oh, goodness. All right, well, I don't know if you caught it, but let me switch scenes. I'm going to push the code, and then I'll put my mic next to the little buzzer. And you could tell me, I don't know if you caught it, which song this is going to be. Yes, we are being rickrolled. It's terrible. I love it. You know, I'm kind of happy that they didn't have a description on there. That just needed to happen. Yeah, that happened. It's still happening. It's gonna take me a minute to clear that. Well, I mean, I'm not surprised. It was just playing a song, which that's fair. Alright, let us get a new sketch here for day 13, and then get into the actual exercise. Alright, so we're gonna do day 13. Super goofy, and I love it. Oh, goodness gracious. That's cool, though, that they actually have up on the website, though, more options. It says it right here on line 110. Never going to give you up, Barbara Gasly. When you get rickrolled, gotta love it. Oh, interesting. The score is available at musicscore.com. Interesting. All right, I'll have to check that out later after stream. That's neat. But yeah, that's silly. All right, day 13 for realsies. All right, so it says Hero Security 101 is the name of day 13. So let me take care of a couple of housekeeping items. I got that, and then we're on the video capture. Okay. All right, you guys should be able to hear this, and then we're going to get into some stuff. Well, all me! Someone started a computer. That's awesome.
Welcome back, dear explorer. I trust you've managed to get some rest after yesterday's, unexpected musical interlude. It appears someone out there in the vast cosmos has a sense of humor.
Yes, they do.
Rickroll, as you Earthlings call it.
My goodness.
Quite the antique prank, but I suppose humor is scarce in the vacuum of space.
I suppose.
Anyway, it's time to get back to business, don't you think? The endless void isn't going to explore itself.
You don't know.
On the docket for today, we have some interesting challenges lined up. To enhance the security of our ship's control panel, we will be utilizing our keypad. We're going to set a personal identification number, or
A pin.
This
Lovely.
will prevent any mischievous extraterrestrial beings from fiddling with our control panel, or a future you pranking the past you.
A future
Time gets
me.
pretty wibbly-wobbly in space,
Future me's
you know.
jerk.
Additionally, we're going to make use of our passive buzzer to provide auditory feedback.
All right, so it looks
This will
like the
help
wiring's gonna be the
ensure
same.
Each key press gets the recognition it deserves, and gives you, the user, feedback that an input
Howdy,
has
Michael.
been registered. Well then, let's not delay any longer, Explorer. Let's dive in and ensure our systems are secure and interactive.
'Kay.
Onward to the adventure.
Okay.
Ah, the beauty of continuity, dear Explorer. You see, the marvel of the universe is that it remains, for the most part, constant. Stars keep
No.
burning, planets keep spinning.
Not quite.
Black holes, well, they continue being quite black and very holish.
Fair.
Likewise, your wiring from yesterday remains perfectly suited for today's exploits.
Good, good.
No need for new knots or wires to detangle.
Knots?
The cosmos has blessed us with a touch of simplicity.
No, we don't want those.
So, we will bypass the wiring stage this time and leap directly into the vast and mysterious world of code.
Okay.
Brace yourself, Explorer, because today we dive headfirst into the celestial sea of ones and zeros.
The Celestial
Let's
Sea.
embark on this code adventure, shall
I wonder if I'll bump into
Life
a friend
as an
while we're here.
Interstellar explorer may feel solitary, and indeed, it mostly is. However, one mustn't overlook the odd chance of bumping into unwelcome guests. After all, space isn't a private garden. It's a vast, unending sea teeming
Call it
with
what you will.
possibilities and, yes, even potential space pirates. Don't look so
Space
shocked.
pirates.
It's not all fun and games out here. It'd be awfully dreadful if your ship's autopilot got hijacked mere moments after finally getting out of this planet's atmosphere. You're welcome to get stuck again, but I think I'll pass. Thank you.
Lovely.
So, with that merry thought, we turn our attention to an essential system in our spacecraft, the security system. Today, we'll give that a nice little upgrade. We're going to add a personal identification number, or PIN, to our control panel. Consider our two-dimensional array from 2 days back, our beautiful little keypad with all those character inputs. Now, let's assign 2 of those keys for some functional fun. One key, an asterisk, will let us change the PIN. The other key, a pound symbol, will be our magic access key. Press that, punch in the correct PIN, and there you have it. The control panel is all yours. Speaking of pins, we need a default one, don't we? Something nice and simple to start with. How about 0000? And
Nice.
before you roll your eyes, remember, this will be changed immediately after. A quick note on system integrity. You see, we only want to allow PIN changes if the user, which in this case is you, already knows the PIN. A little layer of security.
I don't need it.
So we'll split this logic into a separate function to prevent duplication.
That makes sense.
Remember our discussion about functions? Yes, we created one using void because we didn't need it to return anything. Well, that is no longer the case. We need to know if the PIN was correct or not. So let's switch void with bool. When we call this function, it will now return a Boolean value, either true if the PIN is correct or false if it is not. We also need to make sure to add the proper return statements as well where needed. And don't worry about the function going on a spree of calculations. Once it hits return, it jumps right back from where it was called. I've got a line-by-line breakdown of today's code waiting for you. I advise you take a look. It's packed with knowledge and could very well be your key to survival in this cosmic expanse.
Potentially.
Off you go then, Explorer. Please make your way over to the instruction material that I was able to gather cached on your computer.
I am the instruction
I've also added
material.
it
We
to
don't
your
need that
mission
part.
Resources for future reference, should you so need it.
Okay.
All right, welcome back to day 13 of the 30 days lost in space.
Hi, Alex. Bye, Alex. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Okay. I'm gonna get the music going back here. I'm very grateful they have that, but this is what we doing. My goodness. Okay, so I'm not necessarily surprised that we're doing keypad stuff. That totally sounds like something you would want to do with this kind of setup. Now I haven't looked ahead at any of the code, right? We're gonna see this together. I just looked ahead the day just to see if I had to pull out anything wiring wise, to save us a little bit of time of me wandering. But I don't need to because the wiring's the same. I'm interested to see if it's gonna have me hard code other than the default pin into the code that's going to be sitting in this terminal. Because once we set the pin, I would hope that it's not going to be sitting in the written code. Like I'm hoping I'm not declaring it in the plain text file that I'm going to have on the screen, which is our IDE. I'm hoping that we're going to set it using the buttons, but that might be too advanced for today. I do see here that day 14 that's behind my head is advanced security panel, so maybe not, because in my mind I would want the board to require you to set the pin and store the pin and then hopefully retain it when power is lost, because otherwise all you would need to do is unplug the board and then it forgets who it is. But granted, I might be getting ahead of myself, but the way I would want this to work and the way that it's going to be written probably aren't going to line up, but that's okay. Because our goal is just to get exposure to using the keypad, using the speaker, and diving further into the code of a void loop with different conditions to it. As she had mentioned, we're going to be working with functions. And a function is just something that you call upon when there's a task you want to complete. So, to expand a little bit on that, there's a bit of a refresher. We have the primary loop of stuff, right? And sandwiched inside of there is a function, which will have a name. And when we want to run that block of code, whatever's in it, we call it by name, and we provide it the input that it requires, if any is, and then it may return nothing or might return something. In the case of what we're doing today, we're going to be providing a function, our existing pin, and then we want it to tell us of whether that was the correct existing pin or not. So she mentioned that the function is going to be Boolean, or bool, B-O-O-L, meaning either it's going to be true, we provided the right pin, or false, we didn't return the right pin. The nice thing about putting a block of code inside of a function is that you can keep calling that as many times as you need to with only having to write it once. You don't have to write it more than once. You can just keep calling the same block of code over and over and over again, which saves you a ton of space in the terminal window. That also makes your code more efficient, because if for some reason you have to change something with the way that function behaves, well, then you change it once in one place, and then you call upon it in all the other places without having to change anything else. You change it in one place and you're good to go. You click run and see what happens. The only time that you have to update anything else in your code is if you change the structure of the function. So if you ask it to provide something or more than one something that is different than what you were doing before. If it's a void function and you change all the things, then there's nothing to do in your code, because if I call a void function that doesn't require me to stick anything in it, then there's nothing. I just use it. But think of a function as a friend that you just go to and you ask them to do this one specific thing, and then they go okay, and then when you need them you call them again, and then you call them again after that. Does that mean we can code Protogens to deliver pizza on command? Well, if we put Ken has pizza in a function, you could call as many times as you want, but you better remember, in that function it's going to require a credit card. So be mindful how many times you use it. Oh my goodness. But yes, that we're gonna toy with that. I'm gonna reserve myself because I know that this is a beginner's to this board. So it's probably not too security heavy, but security is so unbelievably important in daily life that that's the first thing I think of. Well, if we're working with credentials, how's it being held? Where is it stored? Is it accessible in memory? How easy is it to read it out of memory? More importantly, how easy is it to reset the board? With physical access, that's pretty easy. I plugged it into my computer and I erased it. So I would imagine that this is probably not the best board for security purposes with the basic examples. That might not be necessarily true. This might be fine for doing security stuff, but I'm curious to see, as long as there's no physical access to the board, by just plugging this stuff in the way your code works. Because I mean, if you think about it, if you short all the pins of the keypad together, that's not going to just magically cause it to open. If anything, it's probably going to magically cause it to burn out, which we don't want to do. But enough of that. Okay. We're going to school down here, and then I'm going to start picking apart our code. I already saved this as a new project, which is much nice, very nice. All right, let's see here. So it says playing tones was fun, but it's now time to get back to business. Let's use the 4x4 button keypad input. Yeah, the 4x4 button keypad to input a personal number pin to unlock access to the lender's control panel. So we're going to scoot on down here. All right, parts and electronics concepts introduced in this lesson. Let's see here. So same as before. I'm going to nab these comments too while I'm at it. Before we can work with any hardware, we have to tell the compiler what we're using. If I want to interact with the pins that are on this board, I need to include the Arduino series. I've said that every single episode of this series. This is required. Otherwise, everything below it that works with Arduino won't work. And then we have a class, or excuse me, a library that is for the keypad itself. That allows us to interact with the pad. So those need to be included because they're already wired in. Okay. And then we're going to grab our first couple of things here. And we're going to wander through it. Okay. So first things first, we have 4 rows and 4 columns on our keypad. If we take a look at the keypad, we will see that there are 4 of each. Right? So that's 4 columns that go up and down, and 4 rows that go left and right. We're just declaring that for the basic dimensions of the thing. After that, we can see here that the pin length in this example is hard-coded at 4 digits. You can't have less, you can't have more by this. It made it a constant. Pin code is 4 button presses. Now, I'm sure there's ways that we could write this so that we can have more or less. But for now, we have 4 button presses that are associated. And then we can see here, this is where we declare the initial length of the password. So our current pin. Now, don't get confused here, and I'm sure I'm probably going to get confused looking at this. The name of this variable is called current_pin. So that is indicating that the 4 digits, which the pin length, let's see here. Right, a constant byte, the pin length is equal to 4. So that means that there's 4 positions here. And then current pin length is hard coded to a 4, and then it's equal to 4 zeros for the initial here. Value 48, 48, 48. Right. Now, something I'm a little confused on here is that we know that the pin length is 4, but this is declaring this is an array, unless I'm missing something. I would have thought the pin length would have been 3, because 0 would have been our first denominator. And I'm just going to keep going, and then we'll see if my confusion clears up here. Because arrays always start at 0. They don't start at 1. So I'm not going to get too hung up there. This block of code we have seen before. This is our decided layout for the buttons. So if our keypad had little markings on it, this would be the markings on the buttons and in the order they're in. So some keypads you can buy actually don't just have the black buttons for the Arduino. Some of them actually have this exact layout printed on the keys, and then you can just click the keys. Now granted, again, these can be anything, but we're just going to follow along with the example as it is. Okay. I'm going to grab this next block. Alrighty, let's see here. So then we're going to define 2 more variables, the row pins and the column pins. So we've got the rows at 5, 4, 3, and 2, and the columns at 6, 7, 8, and 9. Define row and column pins connected to the keypad. Oh, that's where it's physically connected to the board. Okay, right. And we're doing the declaration of all these individual pins that are physically connected. This is where I knew that we were going to have some confusion. These pins are the physical pins on the board, where this declaration up top is the keypad pin that you click in on the keys. We're working with 2 different ideas of what a pin is. The personal identification number is 1, and the other pin is the physical thing sticking out of the board. And then, to get the answer of what is in our keypad, we declare the name of our public variable. So public variable, as it shows here, is outside of the void setup. It's up here. So that means that the hero variable for the keypad with the variable name hero keypad is available anywhere in this code. It could be inside the void setup. It could exist inside of the void loop. I can access it anywhere in the code that we see here because it's global. Global means it's available everywhere. Normally, if you declare something, you normally do it inside of the activity that you're working on. So if I have a variable that I require during the loop, I usually declare it in the loop. But that, by nature, means that it's only available inside of this set of brackets. So if code happens inside of this space, that's perfectly fine. But if I want to access something that exists here and it's a variable, up here in setup or below the loop, if for some reason something existed there, it's unavailable. You can't read it because it's not in a status that makes it available to the other parts of the code. So that's why this is up here, because then we can initialize the keypad and read the what's in it at any point because it's global. So we can see here, keypad, make my key map, where we declare, we pass it the buttons, which if we take a look here, that is our layout. And then we pass it how many, or what the row pins are, what the column pins are, and then how many rows and columns that we have. So in the case of our example, we have a 4x4 keypad. So that means that we're working with 4 rows and 4 columns. But if we had a bigger keypad, that could potentially mean we're working with either less or more wires connected to the hero board. So that could potentially mean that the pins, which are declared here, the column pins and the row pins, might be less than 4 apiece. I have a total of 8 wires plugged into the little board for the keypad, which is this colorful ribbon that I have here. Okay, and then we know that on pin 10 is where the buzzer is wired. Again, that's exactly the same as last time. And if I scoot back up here, you'll see there's pin 10 with this magenta colored wire going over to the positive side and then giving the buzzer a path back to ground. So that allows us to control that pretty easily. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is do our setup. So we can see here that our buzzer pin, and let's see here, we're passing output. Oh, wait a minute. I'm declaring the mode of the pin. The pin mode of the buzzer pin is an output pin, which makes sense because we're going, if we interact with pin 10, we want it to make sound, right? So that's an output. We're not reading anything from the buzzer. We're just activating it. So that's what the pin mode does here. And then we can see here that the serial connection is the monitor that I'll have down here. That will bring that up on the serial monitor. Delay is 200 milliseconds. So it says here, delay for a brief period to let things settle before displaying a prompt. The one thing you want to do when you're writing your code that interacts with external inputs is giving everything a brief moment to be available. In most modern operating systems, it's usually the little spinny symbol that you see on the display. That indicates that the operating system is booting, but it's not quite ready yet. This kind of does the same thing by giving this a very brief delay so that the keypad has a moment to become initialized and show in the terminal, because if you start clicking before the terminal's ready, the key presses are going to register, but we're not going to see them in the terminal. So that gives it just a very brief delay to get the two kind of synchronized with each other. Is it required? I don't know, but it's in there, so I'm imagining they probably have that. I'll be curious. I think we might run that without it just to see if any problems crop up. And then we display to the screen here, press the star key to enter new pin or pound to access the system. All right, so star permits us the ability to change what we have, and pound takes us into the current system. Now I'm assuming that when we click the pound, it'll request for the current pin, and star does exactly what it sounds like it's going to do. So let's scoot down here. And this is the first hunk of the void loop. So void loop means that it's not going to return anything. It's just simply going to loop this endlessly until either the board loses power or we hit the reset button. So let's see here. So the loop begins and we just patiently wait for someone to click the keypad. Now, since in the void setup we have this print line, every time we run this code, we're going to see this message appear in the terminal, and then the script is going to stop and wait until something happens on the keypad. Now, once a button has been clicked, we then will proceed to the rest of the loop, to which then we'll do whatever we're supposed to, loop back to the top, and patiently again waiting for input. Now, since this message to enter a new pin to access the system is in the void setup, this message only shows up once during system startup. So if we want during the loop to show this again, that needs to be a part of the code that we have down here, which I'm sure it's probably going to, because otherwise you would have just a nothing on the screen. That kind of leads me back to the thought of like printers and other devices that go into sleep mode. This is kind of like that time where like you would want a button press of any kind to wake up the display if it was sleeping. Ours won't be doing that, but that's kind of the first thing I think of, is that you may need this message to appear more than once. Oh, there's more I copied there. Let's see here. So then it says we're going to make the buzzer make a sound here. And that's going to be at a frequency of 880 for... I think that's length of time. Or do I have this backwards? Let me see here. Because I remember you declared the pin, which we have. And then the second value... One of these is the time and the other one's the frequency. I don't remember which order it's declared in. I think this is the frequency and then the... Yeah, because the optional is the length. So for 100 milliseconds or a second, it's going to make that sound. So it's going to be a quick bloop, like when it first fires up. All right, I'm going to try to copy this in blocks. I'll have to be careful I don't accidentally drop one of these curly braces or the code won't work. Okay, so we run into our first if statement. And it says if the button character, which is captured right here at the very beginning of the loop, is equal to the pound symbol. Some refer to this as the hashtag. I'm going to call it the pound symbol because I am from olden age when that was a pound on a phone. So it goes. All right, so button to access the system. And then it says bool access allowed is equal to validate pin. So this right here is calling out a function we haven't written yet, but we're going to. So right now you're not going to see that if I scroll up or down. It's not here anywhere yet, but that just simply says access allowed is being casted as a Boolean, which means that it's gonna, inside of allowed access, it could only ever be true or false. Understand something. When you're working with true or false in computer language, the existence of something casted into a Boolean, which means you take something and shove it into another variable type, something other than nothing is going to be true. So if this function validate pin returned the word broccoli and shoved it into access allowed, it says here that it's a Boolean style of variable. So the access allowed when equals to validate pin saying it returned broccoli, that's true. 0 and nothing would be false. Everything else returns true. Now this example isn't going to throw us anything strange, but if you're ever working with something that's if you're trying to determine if something's true or false, getting something that's a non-zero or a non-null value is technically true. Shove that into your brain. I'm sure we're probably going to need it later. And then we just simply say that if the allow access is true. Now this is another one of those funky things here. Right here it says if hi Firex. It says if access allowed, but we didn't do anything with it. We just said if access allowed. This is written in shorthand, and if I click on it, if I hover over it, it shows you right here that the type is Boolean. If you write an if statement and you drop in a Boolean style variable, which could be true or false, with nothing indicating this to be the opposite of what it returns, like saying not true, in most programming languages that would be an exclamation mark, which I'm going to check just real quick here and see if that's actually valid here. Nope, it don't like that. That's fine, which Oh, never mind. I didn't declare validate pin yet. That's fine. The way this is written is if true, even though we don't see the double equal to true. Like this, like it says, if button character is double equal symbol, so it says if it's equal to pound, then we do the thing. Just seeing the word access allowed here indicates that if this is true, then we do what is in the first block of the code. Otherwise, we say the else statement of access denied, and then on a new line, that's what this \n is, press star to enter new pin or pound to access the system. So that message that I mentioned earlier up here that would need to be declared down below is then rewritten down here. But if I bet you if I had an exclamation mark here, I could bet you I could make it say welcome authorized user with any incorrect pin. But let's get it working first, and then I'm gonna dissect it a little bit. Because something tells me the exclamation mark is probably not true, which is not what we want, but just so you can see it. Because I like taking apart stuff. That's what we're doing. Alright, so without me boiling any brains here, click the pound. As long as validate pin comes true, so you've provided it a valid pin, then you say the message, welcome user, you may now begin to use the system. Otherwise, basically go away, and then you get the system message to start over again. Without the start over again message, if for some reason we send a command to clear the terminal, we would need to reshow this on the serial monitor. At some point we have a display, which I'm hoping we're going to get to do more of this on an actual display, which is super tiny, but soon. We're like approaching halfway through 30 Days in Space. This is day 13, so it's only a matter of time before we start playing with displays. I am really excited for that. All right, let's see here. Next thing I'm going to grab here is this next if statement. So if the button character is equal to the star symbol, button to change the pin, we then verify again by calling the validate pin function, which we just basically ask that friend that will do the one thing for us, right? We're going to say, hey, is this my pin? Is it correct? And then they come back and say, yep, that's correct. That's true. That's the right pin. Or no, it's not. Probably go away. I'm excited, Pyrex. I really am. Because there's a liquid crystal display, and there's also the segment displays. Which, the segment displays, I haven't used them, but I kind of figured that they're going to be a lot like using the buttons, where we'll have multiple wires hooked up, and it's going to be amazing. I'm very much looking forward to that a lot. Soon. We're going to have more of that soon. Alright, and then we have this block of stuff. Okay, so another one of these funky things, right? So it says if access allowed, which we're checking this variable if it's true. It's not written like that, but that's what this means. Then that says welcome authorized user, please enter a new pin. And then we have here a for function what we're going to use to gather our new pin. So it says for integer int I equaling 0, this is going to be a counter. When I is less than the pin length, which we declared up at the top as being a value of 4. And if I hover over this, you can see that right here. So the pin length being less than 4, we will increment and then capture our keypad, make a sound, and then show the current pin well, let me see here, current pin and then our index is I. So that would be current pin at index 0 is equal to the button character, which is what we captured. So we capture the key press, we make a sound indicating that we did it, and then the current pin is captured and it's stored in position 0, position 1, position 2, and position 3. Okay, so that's where the array comes in, starts at 0. I was wondering about that, because the length of it is 4. That's correct, it's 4 digits, but we are storing in digits 0 through 3 because the arrays start at 0. And then instead of printing on the screen what we typed, we print the always all familiar asterisk to indicate that it has been captured. So if someone was looking over your shoulder, they would see the asterisk, not your actual digit that you typed. Okay, and then we have a little more here. That's related to that. I try to usually copy these in related stuff, but just gotta grab a little more here. Okay. Okay, so we see here where it says serial print lines, that it returns an empty line with nothing on it, right? Add a new line after last asterisk, so message is on the next line. Now, remember something, this is looped 4 times, right? Because up here we said for the counter being at 0 and the pin length being less than the loop of 4, we then pop out on a new line, pin successfully changed. So on the screen, we're going to get 4 asterisks and then a blank line, and then the message that we successfully printed it. Otherwise, we'll say access denied, cannot change pin without the old or the default. And then it starts us over again with the message saying to press star to enter the pin or pound to enter the system. Now, I'm going to grab this and then I'm going to scoot up a little bit here. So it says, this function prompts the user to enter a pin and returns true or false depending on whether the pin matches our saved pin. Note, this function introduces the concept of a function that returns a single value. First, we must indicate what type of value that will be returned in the initial function declared. The excuse me. The bool at the beginning of the declaration indicates that this function will return a Boolean value of either true or false, nothing in between. Okay, so we're going to drop that in here. And I can full screen this now. Okay, so when it comes to coding preference, I usually like to have my functions written at the top, not at the bottom. Some languages will force you to write it with the function to be declared, which means you write it, before you call it to use it. In the case of the Arduino IDE, I don't believe it cares if it's at the top or the bottom, because I'm pretty sure I tested that already. In this case, in the example, and the way they do it, they write it at the bottom, which is fine. But if I'm looking for the function called validate pin, and I'm all the way up here, and I'm calling on something, my mind would first think to scroll up to see if it's up here. Because some languages won't let you call on a function if it's not written down first. I want to say that C++ was like that. It had to be declared before you try to use it. Which declaring it is just this. It's just writing it out, but putting this block of code up at the top. But let's take a look at this, right? So when we call on the validate pin function, we say here to the screen, enter the pin to continue. And then we go into our loop to capture all 4 numbers that we're going to provide, right? So we have the same block of code that we used to reset the pin to capture the pin, because it's 4 numbers. And then we run through this 4 times. We make a sound after each button press. And it says if the current pin in its position is not equal to the button character. So I was right about that. An exclamation mark in an equal symbol is equal to the opposite. So it says if the current pin is not the button that we pressed. So if our current default pin is 4 zeros and I type a 5, right? Well, then the current pin is not equal to what we have stored. Hydrate? Who's doing that? I could do that. I have some hot tea here. Thank you for reminding me I need to drink things. Which, actually, knowing myself, I'm a little curious here. Did I actually do that, or did I think I did that? Nope, I didn't do that. There's going to be a command for that at some point. It is blueberry tea, and I have the raspberry honey in it. It's delicious. Very much so. Oh, and it's hot tea. Oh, trust me, the flavors are amazing. 10 for 10. There is apparently a lot of different types of, or a lot of different flavors of honey. This is just one of the ones that so happens to be in an area that I can get relatively easily. So that's what I'm doing, and it's delicious. Let me see here. So this if statement right here is a block of code where this curly brace starts up here and it ends down here, which means if the current pin in the current position, right? So if we're at position 0, if position 0 on the first run is not equal to the number we have stored, then we're going to say wrong pin digit, and then it's going to actually write to the terminal the button we pressed, and then returns false and exits the function. So if you get one of the 4 positions incorrect, it's going to stop the function and say you are wrong. Otherwise, if you are correct, after each button press, it's going to type an asterisk. Now that function is from up here to all the way down here, right? Well, actually, excuse me, it's from... Was I correct in that? I feel like I might have accidentally ate a curly brace because there's supposed to be an end to the function, which I might have goofed here. Let me collapse the void loop for a minute. Okay, I put the function outside of the void loop. Was I supposed to put it here? Let's take a look at the example. Yes, I was supposed to declare it outside of the loop, because you're calling it. Okay, I wanted to check that because it's important that you put the code in the right place. So I'll just leave that collapsed for a minute. So the code that's going to loop every single time does not include the function. The function is written outside of it, and I really think I could put this up here in the top above void setup. I don't think it actually matters in this language. But that's actually great. So with that collapsed, we could see more of what's relevant here. Yeah, so all right, so we run through this 4 times. As long as we don't get a wrong button somewhere along the way, then we just print 4 asterisks on the screen, side by side by side, all in one row. There's no new line. We then, funny enough, print a new line after the 4 digits, and then say the device has been successfully unlocked. And we, more importantly, at the bottom, we return true to the rest of the code. So if you goof up somewhere along the way while entering it, you hear an angry sound. I'm sure that's probably what this is, this 880 for a second. It's probably sounding like that. But the thing is that this function lives outside of the loop. So we just return true, and then wherever we are in the code is where we pick back up. So if we were looking at this, I'm just gonna validate this so it'll stop doing that. There, okay. The red on the screen was starting to bother me. So if we look through this and we start our loop, it says here to wait for button input. So I hit the pound symbol, right? So it says if the button character is equal to pound, we end up into here. We then capture whether access is allowed or not. So then we actually call on validate pin by calling it this way. The name of the function and then an empty set of parentheses ending with a semicolon. What that does is it provides nothing immediately to the function, which I'm gonna be honest with you is a little strange. But that then jumps down past everything else, comes down here, and then basically picks up where it left off, saying put in your digits, and then during the loop it goes to capture them, to which then you put in your digits. You'll hear a sound. If it's incorrect, it kicks you out. If it's correct, you just see an asterisk appear on the screen and no additional sound. After 4 runs of that, as long as you did it right, it returns true. It scrolls back up and then stores inside of allowed access true or false depending on what actually happened. And then the code continues onwards, just like we had read it from top to bottom when we first put it in here. The reason I say this reads a little strangely to me is that normally when you're providing a value to a function, usually that happens inside of this area right here, inside of these curly braces. Excuse me, inside of these parentheses. The curly braces are these guys. But since it just jumps to this block of code, you just capture it mid-function. And a lot of the codes, or a lot of the functions that I've worked with in the past, normally you're just passing the information directly into the function and then waiting for the return. Usually you're not capturing stuff inside of it, but there's nothing wrong with doing it this way. It's just the way I would have thought to write this is a little different than the way they presented it, which I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to send it. We're going to play with it, and then I'm going to toy with the code here a little bit. Because if I understand this correctly, I might actually be able to write this the way I'm thinking I would expected this to be written. See, in my mind, I would almost break this into 2 different functions, to be honest. One to just iterate through capturing all the keys, and then another one to confirm whether it's actually correct or not. I don't know. We'll see what kind of time we have here. Let's play at the board. I have talked enough. I want to watch stuff happen. So I am going to verify the code one more time. I think I have everything in here now. I'm going to send it to the board. I did so, and then you have to turn on the serial monitor, which I should have did first, which I didn't. All right, cool. So we can see behind my head, which I'm going to move this a little bit. Put that up on the middle of the screen. It says press star to enter a new pin or pound to access the system. Okay, cool. So I am going to look at the code. I'm gonna scroll back up here. I need to see the button layout because on the buttons, as I had mentioned, they're just black keys. The advantage of splitting the code. In my mind, I would think the idea of capturing the pin to be its own function, and then the one to verify the pin to be a different function. The reason I would say that is that if you decide somewhere along the line that the length of the pin is going to be either dynamic or you want to change it, then the function that captures it can be modified. But if you decide to change the way that you verify it, well, then they're separate pieces. If the user right now presses nothing, you get exactly what you see right now. The code is waiting for button input right now. So, nothing. Nothing will happen. Which is fun. If you already chose an option and it's waiting for pin, right? So, let me get us there. The way the code's written right now, nothing will happen. It'll wait for pin forever because there's nothing in the code to indicate of a timeout, which we're also familiar with. Usually if you try to unlock your phone, if you don't put the pin in after a handful of seconds, usually about 10 to 15 seconds, usually it times out and the screen shuts off or the keypad disappears in most cases. This code is incredibly archaic. It doesn't have any of the fancy functions in it to do anything like that. Because our code, in the way that our interfaces are written, are to accommodate for the fact that we're human, right? So if you put your phone down, well, if you didn't put your pin in the next 10, 15 seconds, well, maybe you actually went to go grab the mail, maybe the doorbell rang, maybe you require attention, someone's trying to get your attention, so you stopped looking at your device. That's where timeouts would be incredibly handy. Which, if we were trying to save the display, right, to prevent screen burn-in, which used to be a pretty common thing with plasma TVs or old CRT monitors, if image was left up on the display for long periods of time, you would get the thing called screen burn-in, where whatever was last on the screen appears as a ghosted image. The displays of today don't really do that much anymore. I've seen a handful of smartphones that still do it, where if your home screen ever changes, it's like just forever on your display, even when the phone's off. It's kind of crazy. But let me look here. The pound symbol is the lower left-hand corner. So if I reach for the keypad and I click it, okay, it beeped and it said enter pin. So for me to get the correct pin, I have to enter 4 zeros right now. Device successfully unlocked. Welcome, authorized user. Please enter a new pin. So I'm gonna go across the top. 1, 2, 3, A. The pin has successfully been changed. Which none of you heard. I totally didn't just give you the pin to unlock this. Nope, definitely didn't do that. Now something that's interesting here is that I successfully changed the pin. Let's find where we are in the code right now. It says, welcome authorized user, you may know. I did welcome a new pin. Now check this out. This is interesting. I think this is actually a typo. Look at this. So if access denied was incorrect, it would then print to the screen what to do next. Look at what the code's missing right here. We successfully changed the pin, but we didn't write to the terminal what to do next. So here, we're actually going to add that. Because otherwise, how are you supposed to know what to do next if you don't tell the user? Now, I'm going to save this, but I'm not going to send it just yet, because I'm going to send this back into the mode where you would change the pin, by just clicking the pound, or excuse me, the star symbol again. Because even though we didn't write to the screen our two options that we wanted the user to see, it's still waiting for input and it went back to the top of the loop. The problem is that we didn't tell the user that, so they don't know what to do next because we didn't tell anybody. So if I just click the star again, it asks me to enter my PIN, which I'll enter again. I've successfully unlocked it with the PIN I provided, and then to enter a new one, I successfully changed the PIN, but again, there's no message. So let me send the code where I add that extra item. Here, hang on a minute. I cleared it, but I cleared our initial message. There we go. Okay. CRT projectors. Interesting. I don't think I've ever worked with one of those. Paradox, out of curiosity, are those exceptionally heavy? Because I feel like they probably would be. We're going to do the same thing here now. I'm going to change the pin. So, star to enter. Enter the current pin. Right, so I'm going to make a mistake. Wrong digit, pin 5. Access denied. Cannot change pin without the old or default. Alright, cool. So let me go back in. I entered in all zeros, which is the default. And then I'm going to enter in my new pin. 1, 2, 3. A. Now look at that. Not only did I change the pin, I included a new message on a new line indicating that not only that I left this some space, I now told the user what we could do next. So now that the pin's been changed, all I have to do now is click the pound symbol to actually gain access to the system beyond the default. Now, we're going to access the system. I'm going to put in an incorrect pin and a correct pin, and then I want to remove power from the hero board and see if we lose our default, if we lose our set pin, because I set the pin 1, 2, 3 letter A, just the top row of keys. I don't know if that will leave the memory, because part of me would think that when power is removed it's going to forget that. Because normally to reset the code and clear the variables, you either hit the reset key or you remove power. So I'm under the impression that will be defaulted when I unplug the cable. What do you guys think? Do you think that's going to be the case, or do you think it's actually going to hold on to it? Oh, ridiculously heavy. 3 CRT tubes, about 8 inches screens with a massive glass lens. The blue gets driven hard, so burns fast. Oh. 3 CRT tubes? Oh, goodness. That sounds like a device that should be on its own cart. Heck, probably is its own cart. That's bonkers. I've never worked with anything that big. I worked with some older projectors that were like kind of chonky, but most projectors are kind of chonky. That sounds like you're moving around a small city. That sounds terrible. All right, I have to scroll back up here and see what my keyboard layout is here. Let's see. So pin is that position. Okay, enter the pin to continue. I'm going to start with the wrong pin. Actually, first digit will be right, second digit will be wrong. Access denied. All right, so that's working as intended. All right, so I'm going to do 1, 2, 3A. And just like that, device successfully unlocked. Welcome, authorized user. You may now begin using the system. Which is great, because it worked. Now, I'm going to restart the board and see what happens. Now, just to prove to you that what I typed is what I did, I'm going to show you. I'm going to restart the code. So I'm just going to upload it again to reset it. Red, green, blue tubes. Converging was fun. It sounded unpleasant. Alright, so we're back to the prompt here. And I'm going to show you on the camera. On the camera here, I'm going to show you the buttons I'm pressing. And then I'll show you that it was correct to access the system. So before I do anything, I'm going to click pound, enter my pin 123A. Oh, remember how I said I reset it? Yeah, that cleared the pin I had. All right, hang on, we're gonna do this again. So I'm gonna do star. I'm gonna do star. Am I gonna do star? Hang on, let me reset the board again. All right, so I'm going to do star, and then the default, which is 4 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm now going to enter the new pin, which is going to be 1, 2, 3A. And now, if I show you the terminal, get my chair out of the way. We can see here that the pin was successfully changed to exactly what I showed you, and now it's restarted. Now, I'm going to reboot the board by disconnecting it from power. So right here, I'm going to disconnect it. That's going to show inside of the terminal that we're not connected to the board, which I will actually switch scenes back to show you that. So there it is, the yellow message, not connected. Select a board and board to continue automatically. Then I'm going to plug it back in, and we're going to see what pin it accepts. Okay, so I have that plugged back in. And if we see here, it says press star to enter the new pin or pound to access the system. I think it's going to want the default, but I'm going to put in the last pin I used, and we're going to see. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, letter A to try to access the system. So I'm going to click pound and enter 1. Nope. Wrong pin digit, number 1. So that answers that question. So I'm now going to put in all defaults, which should be 4 zeros then. Which is 1, 2, 3. Oh, hang on a minute. That's not right. I gotta click pound and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Device successfully unlocked. Welcome, user. And just like that, we hacked the system by rebooting it. Which kind of makes sense to me, because there is nothing right now that this board has for remembering what is in memory. Which doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Let me explain why. If you've ever worked with some of the really cheap locks, really cheap electronic locks, you're going to notice that if you take the batteries out, they lose their configuration. You have to actually reset back up a new pin. This is why they're using an incredibly basic code with no storage for long term. This is called volatile and non-volatile memory. Volatile memory is like RAM. RAM is memory that gets cleared when power is lost. So when you turn off your computer, unplug it from the wall, or just simply turn it off in general, there's no longer power to the RAM, So the memory has been reset and it's wiped. Non-volatile memory holds its value when power has been removed. Exactly, nom nom RAM. Yes, so by all means, our RAM, as I have shown in chat, is volatile. Non-volatile memory is hard drives, SD storage, things that can remember their value when power has been removed. This particular code and the setup of all of this is all using the volatile memory. So the only way to prevent the pin that we set from being removed is for this board to never lose power. So if this was being a security system and it had batteries in it, two things happens here. First one, when power's lost, well, you can't get in, right? Which means you need some backup mechanism to be able to provide power to the electronics in order to be able to put in the default pin to access the system. Now in this case, this example is using the idea of this being a pin for our spaceship, right? So if our console loses power, then that means that 4 digits of zeros will get us back in with the default. There's plenty of electronics locks that do this that are on the cheaper side. I used to actually have a coin bank, and it was a super cheap coin bank, in the sense that it was like a plastic box essentially with a plastic latch, and then if the batteries died, they actually designed it so that the batteries didn't live in the door. The batteries lived in the bottom of the safe. So all you had to do was just open up the bottom and then put in the default code to open it, and then tap the button on the back and then reprogram it. But that means that if you wanted to access the safe, all you had to do was just pop out the batteries, give it a second, pop them back in, and then put in the default code. Now you've opened it, which is terrible. That is terrible. Indeed, it is very sad when you have to lock your doors and lock your spaceship when you're out in space. What has it come to, folks? When you have, can I at least get the cool remote fob where it's like bloop bloop, you know? And then like the lights flash and like, I don't know, the solar panels go up and down or something a little bit. How crazy would that be? Could you imagine that at the International Space Station where you get like a ding dong ditch and you're like, did we lock the doors? Like, I sure hope so. All right. That leads me to want to actually look something up now. Do you think there's actually a doorbell on the International Space Station? Because if they have the dock, do you think that's actually a thing? I'm looking this up. We're doing it right now. Oh, that sucks. The International Space Station doesn't have a doorbell, but it has airlocks and docking ports that function like doors. That's so less fun. Could you imagine? You're in the middle of eating your sandwich. It's lunchtime on the International Space Station, and you hear a ring at the front door. I can tell you right now, that's an airlock nobody's gonna want to go check. And that would include yours truly. That sounds like something out of a horror video. And we already know that if you go alone, you're gonna have a bad time. I can't even imagine. That's terrible. Oh my goodness. A ceremony arrival for the new crew. So cool. Can we like do that? Can we like ask like NASA if they would be willing to add a doorbell? That would be so amazing. Ding dong. Hello. I'm here to deliver your supplies. Who wants to? I mean, sure, you could schedule a visit, but that's organized. It's a way more fun just to show up unannounced and click the doorbell on the outside of the space station. Oh my god, that would be bonkers. I love it. No cold callers. Come on, it's the vacuum of space. Someone's got to be able to do it. I think that'd be kind of amazing. Oh, well, I wonder how the postman picks up their mail. Then again, there's probably a good chance that the postal service probably doesn't deliver to the cold depths of space. But I mean, there's always a chance. I just have like a little collection bin on the outside, little clip. I mean, I don't know what they'd be paying you, but it would probably be pretty good money. All right, I want to break this now. I do. So, through my initial thought process here, this should be really easy to break. I just have to find what line of code I was talking about. I think it was near the top of the void loop, void loop, tone, buzzer. I'm suspicious. Button character to access the system. Oh, right here. This is where I was thinking. So I should do that. Let's see if that compiles. Is that legal? That is legal. Okay. All right. Well, here, let me clear the terminal. So remember how I mentioned earlier that this style of if statement says that whatever the variable is, we're just checking to see if it's true, and if it's true, do it. Otherwise, the else statement runs for anything else other than true. This exclamation mark reverses the logic, which in turn breaks the keypad. What's going to happen now is it's going to say welcome authorized user to an incorrect input. And then it's going to say access denied for every correct iteration of the pin. Because this is saying if allowed access is not true with the exclamation mark. So I've already reset it. So if I'm going to put in the default pin to try to access the system, and it's going to probably tell me to go away. The next crew change on the ISS. Oh, yeah. I saw an article about that, Pyrex. That they're coming up on doing that. I think they were also saying that they also wanted to get some people off of there, like, quickly. So. Oh, I can imagine. I would love to know what it would have been like, though, for the crew member that snuck a gorilla suit onto the International Space Station. And I think there was only, like, one person on the ground crew that knew that it was going to be there. So, like, they were running around the ISS in, a gorilla costume. Very, very strange. I mean, let's face it. You basically live at work when you're in the space station. I know, worth it, right? So, in all fairness, we all have shenanigans in our own spare time when we're not at work. So, I mean, to me, that just sounds like fun, which no real harm in it. Hey! Whoa! Wow! Irma word. Hey! It worked! That never works! The raid notification, it functioned. Oh my word. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Dragonus, for the raid. 'Tis appreciated. I am melting people's brains here right now, talking about keypads and other things of electronics variety. But I want to know what you guys are up to. What were you doing? Were you doing art? Were you playing games? Were you solving the world's problems? That's a good one. I feel like that's quite a wide scope of things in the realm of being possible. We had been working on a keypad here for our spaceship. Thank you for the shout out. You beat me to it. Right now I've just broken our keypad, or at least I think I've broken our keypad by changing the logic of this to being backwards. Yes, much excellence. Welcome on in, by all means. I still want to know what you're doing, though. Much curious. Very proto. I have the exclamation mark here. So this should actually make it work backwards. So when it's true, it should say if not true, which would mean false. Right? So if it's false, which means the pin isn't right, you're going to say welcome on in. Otherwise, you're going to say access denied when it's correct. If I did it right. H2O. All right, fine. I have something close to that. I've got hot tea. And it's delicious. It's blueberry tea with raspberry honey. Highly recommend. It's a delicious hot tea. It's a gray. Hello. All right, we're going to push this code and we're going to see what happens. I think I've successfully broken this, that it's going to work backwards now. All right, so for those of you who have wandered in here, the default pin to our keypad is all zeros, which is right here. So when the code first runs, we get 4 zeros. This is an incredibly basic idea of a keypad. So it can't be more digits, it can't be less digits. It's exactly 4. The science is going mighty fine, Gray. I hope you're doing well today in the grand scheme of things. And with that exclamation mark I put in here, the default pin right now is 4 zeros. So we are going to try to change this with the correct pin, and we're going to see what happens. Since I reversed that logic, I should not be able to do it. So I'm going to do star 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's see, if button. Oh, I modified the one for accessing the system, not the other one. Hang on a minute, I did the wrong one. Actually, you know what? Here, I'm just going to not do that. I'm going to clear the terminal and reinitialize the code, because I modified what happens when you click the pound symbol by doing that. Okay, so I'm going to just use the default pin and try to access the system. So I'm going to do pound 0, 0, 0, 0. Look at this. Device successfully unlocked. Access denied. All right, now I'm going to put in the wrong code to try to access the system. So I'm going to click pound. I'm then going to do, let's see, let's do like a 3. Wrong pin digit 3. Welcome, you authorized user. You may now begin using the system. Yes, I broke that in fantastic fashion. But to really break it successfully, even further, I have to actually break the same thing down here for this one. So if not access allowed, that means the right pin won't work, but any incorrect pin will work just fine. So I'm going to clear the terminal. I'm going to try to access the system. I'm going to put in all zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. Device successfully unlocked. Access is denied. Press start to change the new pin. All right, bet. Star. Enter the pin. Enter pin to continue. The current pin is 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. Device successfully unlocked. Access denied. Cannot change pin without the old or default. So now, I'm going to change the pin using the wrong pin. I'm going to put in A. Wrong digit A. Welcome, authorized user. Please enter a new pin. Okay. 1, 2, 3, letter A. Well, I've now entered the new correct broken pin, which is actually correct. Because right now what I've done is I've reversed the logic. So it's still stored the new pin. So if I do the pound symbol and then put in the actual correct pin, we're going to get the broken backwards message. 1, 2, 3, letter A is going to say unlocked but access denied. Let me explain why we're still seeing the device successfully unlocked. If I scroll down here to the function, that's where that's coming from. Because I reversed the logic on the stuff up top, but not down here. So at any point the pin is incorrect, returning a false. It's supposed to break out, and then it returns false. The problem is that I provided the correct pin, which then blindly writes to the screen, device successfully unlocked, it returns true because the pin was correct. The problem is that I jacked up the logic up here by switching what it actually means. A variable with nothing in here is just simply checking if it's true or false. True, but proceeding with the token of the exclamation mark is now checking to see if this is false. So if false, do that. Otherwise, if true, do that. I am not a fan of writing my code, looking for the reverse logic, and then doing something for true otherwise. My brain doesn't work that way, which is why when I write my own code, I don't do that. I always do the true statement first, and then else whatever the false or preceding statements afterwards. Because this is a fantastic way to melt your brain. Because if you're trying to think about, okay, so if this is not true, then we do this. Otherwise, that means if it is true, like, I don't know about you guys, but in my mind, you're checking for true first and then false second. That's just the way it works in my head. So I'm going to actually unbreak this before I cause, injury to anybody else in chat, including myself. And we're going to fix up the keypad that I just thoroughly destroyed. And then I'm going to clear the terminal. So now this should be back to being a functioning keypad once again. So I'm going to try to change the pin by clicking the pound symbol. And then I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. And then I'm going to put in a new pin of A, B, C, D. And then I'm going to click the pound symbol to access the system. So I'm going to click pound, and then I'm going to do A, B, C, D. And now I've unlocked it, and now I can access it with the correct pin, which I just did the outer row. So if you see here, I did A, B, C, and D. And I'm just going to show you that same exact thing, except from the point of view of the camera, just so you can see it. So I'm actually going to reinitialize it to clear that. Hang on, I meant to clear the terminal first and then send the code. Then there's the slight delay, and then there's our message. Okay, so I'm going to go through the same exact thing. I'm going to enter the default code of all zeros. So we've got the little beeps coming from our speaker that is on the board right here. All this is plugged into our hero board through the very colorful wires. And then everything I'm doing is on this keypad. So there is row 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then columns 1, 2, 3, and 4 going that way. So to be able to enter the system, the star is the lower left-hand corner, and pound is the third column, fourth row. So I'm going to change the pin by clicking the star symbol, entering the pin of 4 zeros, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. It says on the screen that I've been authorized, and now I'm going to change it to the letters of the alphabet of A, B, C, D. And now I'm seeing the message on the screen. To be able to access the system, I'm then going to click pound, and then A, B, C, and D. And then when I switch scenes to show you all, we can see right here that I entered the new pin, and then I successfully unlocked it with the new pin. And that is the basic idea of a keypad. like I said, really cheap locks that you can buy online use the same kind of quote-unquote technology. And as you can see, the mechanism that actually makes this work isn't too terribly expensive. The electronics that are a part of the Hero board is a microcontroller, some components to make sure the electricity has been properly routed, and then there's just the keypad, which is easy enough. It's just a small 4x4 grid. The logic is pretty straightforward here on what we're doing, other than the little bit of initial setup, which is a little cryptic to look at. The idea of what we're doing here is just waiting until someone does something, and then checking to see if it's correct or not. But since this has no way to hold on to that pin beyond power loss, that makes it a very insecure device. It's pretty easy to just get around it as long as the batteries die. Or better yet, not even worried about the batteries. If this doesn't have batteries and it's plugged into line power, because say that you have this USB cable plugged into my laptop, right? And it's controlling a door. Well, if I unplug my laptop from that keypad, well, surprise, surprise, it don't work no more. It's going to come back up and be reset. Which is why you'll see that some cheap locks actually use a default of something other than 4 zeros, because they don't want people to know the default. Sometimes they'll use something just as easy but a little bit more cryptic, so that you kind of need to know the model or know enough to just look up that lock online to see what the default is, because all that stuff's always published, different default passwords to access some equipment, like your internet modem, or even some printer manufacturers. They have different ways and different defaults, none of which I'm going to describe here because that kind of defeats the purpose. You can look it up if you want to know. But that at least kind of furthers the point that thinking about your security, if you're going to make something that is going to be custom to you, is pretty important, because you wouldn't want it to be so easily defeatable. Like the case of my old school safe that you just had to pop the batteries out, put them back in, and then put in the default code, which is super easy to find the default code for that because it was plastered all over the internet. So like, it took next to no time to figure out how to get around the lock if you forgot your pin. That thing was so bad though. One of the things that I really liked about it is that it had a voice unlock function that you could like click a button and then say your pin out loud, and it would attempt to hear your voice and unlock. It was so bad. It was supposed to do voice recognition. It didn't, not even remotely. It worked so poorly that it wouldn't unlock via voice ever. So I just never used the function. It kind of reminds me of the old CDs you'd get in cereal boxes. There was a Crack Snapple Pop Rice Krispies promotional CD that they had, and if you popped it in your computer, you could install it and add voice recognition and the little characters from the cereal company on your computer. It was a whole bunch of fun to play with, and it the very beginnings of voice activation stuff was just wild. I can't even that doesn't even pale in comparison to like where we've gotten, because you can just like whip out your phone and be like, hey, smart assistant, tell me what's the temperature outside, and then not only does it give you the temperature, you can even ask it what the temperature is in some other random part of the world. It doesn't even have to be the same space you're in, but it already knows that because why? Location data. Which is kind of wild. You could be places, and then you ask your phone stuff, and then it looks at where you are and goes, oh, okay, you're probably talking about here, because you're not in the middle of nowhere, unless you are. If that's the case, you might find a little dog screaming and running around. But nor here nor there. it's a very interesting time. God, I love Cartoon Network. Oh, Courage the Cowardly Dog was a fantastic show. It really was. Alrighty. Let me swing back around to our code here. I think that was everything from the function that was a part of this. Well, I'm curious here, though. What time is it? Take a look at our terminal here. Yeah, capture. Well, the first thing I want to know, right, because this is outside of that. I'm pretty sure I verified this independently before, but I'm pretty sure that if I put this above the loop, that this will still work. So I'm going to move our function for validating the pin above the setup or the loop. Let's first see if it verifies, and then let's see if it sends. Yeah, it looks like it's going to work okay. Oh, okay. No, that does work. Alright, so it looks like the Arduino IDE doesn't seem to mind if the function is written above or below the loop. It doesn't seem to care. I'm pretty sure I've checked that out before, but just to reiterate that fact. Because in my mind, if I want to know what this function is doing and I'm calling for it right here, I would think that I would look up for it, not down. Since it's right here, I would think I would scroll up to go looking for that. And I mean, the nice thing is with all this stuff is that these terminals are written so that you can collapse this. So if I want, it's still in the code, but to visually make it disappear, that makes it take up just one line. So that allows you to compartmentalize your code to make it a little easier to see and also look through. You just need to remember that, you know, you have to expand it if you want to see what's in it. I am curious though on something. Well, so I guess we'd probably have to write that out if we wanted to do that. I'm curious of something. Let us... Alright, I'm gonna put this back just so if I revisit the example, I won't have mucked up where everything is. I'm wondering... I don't really need to return anything, but if I wanted to pass the pin along to the function without trying to get it there, I'm gonna try something here. Alright, I'm gonna have a void function called reveal pin. And then I want to capture a byte called current pin. I'm half wondering if it's possible. First, let me see if that actually compiles. It might not. No, it does. It does. It compiles. I'm wondering about passing, instead of asking for the pin inside of this function, to just pass it along as one number and then being able to do something with it. In this case, I want to actually display it to the screen. So the size of the current pin will be a byte because it's going to be less than 255, which is the max of a byte, because it's only going to be 4. It's going to be 4 in length. It's going to be 4 numbers. Right, because that's technically a maximum of... Wait a minute. Wait, that won't work. Hell. Actually, we're going to see if this breaks it, because technically the maximum this number could be is 9999, which is larger than 255. That should cause some kind of buffer overflow, because I'd be reading further out of memory. Alright, we're going to intentionally try and break it. I'm going to try to intentionally make this not work, and then fix it by making it a double. I'm genuinely curious to see what it'll do. But I'm thinking this might go poorly, initially anyway, until we fix it. So I want to accept it and then simply... I want to print it to the screen. So I'm going to steal this print line, and then we're going to print out the current pin to the display. Now, to pass that along, I would need to iterate through capturing it. So I'm going to write a function for that. Now, if I do that, it has to be able to return something other than true or false. So to do that, all I should have to do is make another function, return a double. And this is going to be called capture pin. Which doesn't require anything to accept. But what we are going to do is I'm going to gut part of this. I could keep the key presses if I wanted to. Now the trick here is being able to append without addition, because the theory, technically speaking, the best way to return that would technically be in an array, but I would rather it just be a number, so I could just spit it out to the screen. Alright, so what if we say... First I have to declare it. Double... Result is going to be equal to nothing on initialization, which I want to actually do before the loop, because otherwise I'll just keep resetting it. And then we'll say result is going to be Probably plus equals. I'll have to check the syntax on this. So if I do results is plus equal to the button character. And then after it loops through all of that, I should be able to then return. Well, result's a bad word. I should use what it is. The pin. Captured pin. I like using meaningful names. Alright, before I do anything else, let's see if that verifies. Or if I missed something. I missed a semicolon, which I probably have to need that. Yeah, I need that on the return statement. And then I need that up here. I expected a semicolon somewhere that I did not provide one. Okay, I missed some semicolons. That'll be fine. Okay. So my plan here is up at the top. I'm going to ask to capture the pin, which should capture all 4 numbers and stitch them together into the one variable. The plus equals, I'm not sure about this language. We're going to see what we actually get. Normally means to append to the number here. Oh, I know, right? A couple extra semicolons. They never hurt anybody, unless they were hiding. To which then they were the best hide and seek champion probably in forever. The thing is that I'm working with. We'll have to see. This is either going to add the digits together or it's going to stick them together. Because I want it to return one number. I don't want to return an array of numbers. Because I feel like slapping all the numbers together would make this easier. Because I don't necessarily need to know to pull apart position 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the code. Obviously, we would need the pin to be typed in the correct order, otherwise it wouldn't be very secure now, would it? There are some locks that are like that, actually, that you could put in any of the 4 correct digits in any order and they still work. Again, there's plenty of funky locks out there. That is one of the funky ones. But what I should be able to do is I should be able to call capture pin, and then it will ask for all 4 digits, because it's right here asking for 4 runs of the code based on the pin length, which is right there, 4. Right, which is why we declared that up top. If that was hard coded and I decided that I wanted 5 or 6 digit pin, then I'd have to update all the code. I don't have to do that. I just have to be fun and break all my things. And then right after that, I can call on the reveal pin function, and passing it. You know what? I'm just gonna make this a double. I'm a little scared that it'll break in a way that would be bad. Like for like. I just want to see if this will work, and then maybe I'll try it. Maybe I'll switch it back then. I'm passing a double. I'm capturing a double. It might not actually even let me if I kept it the other way. Yeah, it's fine. And then we're gonna spit it to the screen. So we're gonna try that. So I'm going to call up here and keep going. To where we first wait for something to happen, which is where the void loop starts. There's a buzzer. And then right in here is where I'm going to add my code. So I'm going to say after promptly forgetting what I was going to do. Capture pin. So I'm going to do capture pin. And then I have to actually store a variable. I have to store the result in something, because if I call this, then the result it's going to spit back won't go anywhere. It'll just disappear into the ether because I didn't catch it with something. I have to store this in something. So I'm going to say current pin. Now, I wonder if it'll make me declare that. Yeah, it's not declared in the scope. So, I was talking earlier a little bit about scope. I use the same variable name, current pin, is what's down here. Or wait, no, I didn't. Captured pin. Here, we're going to do that. I want to talk about scope. This is a fantastic way to do so. Alright. Compilation error. Captured pin was not declared in this scope. So here's the funny thing. This up here is not declared anywhere, right? If I scroll down here, captured pin, which exists down here, is inside of the function called captured pin. So think of this like a Tupperware container. This phrasing of captured pin is living inside of the Tupperware container labeled captured pin. I can't access this without going into the container. The lid is closed, but I'm not in it. Which means I can reuse the same exact variable name up here, and whatever it was set to further down in the code inside that function won't break anything, it won't bother anything, because it's a different variable with the same name in another part of the code. Normally speaking, I wouldn't normally do this, but I wanted to show you that you can, not necessarily that you should. We're working with doubles. All right, so we enter the loop. That'll actually reset the capture pin to 0 each time. So clicking a button activates it. We then activate the function, we capture what it is, and then right after that, we're going to try passing to reveal pin what we got. So we're going to then call reveal pin and to pass it. So here's the thing, right? It created a set of parentheses, and then in here it's requiring me to pass something to it. So I'm actually asking for the current pin, right? Now this is where confusion of reusing the same variable names would come in. Current pin is talking about the current pin that's down here. Oh, it's captured pin. Did I say captured pin or current pin? Revealed pin. Current pin. Where is that coming from? My capture pin. I've confused myself in my own words. Oh, here it is. I'm looking at the wrong function. So right here, the current pin is where that's coming from. So that gives you a hint as to what you're going to give it, right? So we've captured it, and then we're going to then show the current pin. So I'm going to pass this, the captured pin that I got from the step above. This is then just going to display it to the screen, if I did it correctly. Now, I'm going to use all numerical digits first. So I'll use, like, what am I going to use? 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do 1 through 4 and see if it shows 1 through 4 or if it shows 10. We'll see if it shows 10 or if it shows 1 through 4. We compile it. We're going to send it. Okay, so we're seeing our usual press the star to enter. Let me move this so you guys can see that better. There we go. Okay, so there's our normal message. I'm going to click any key to proceed the code forward. Because right now, where I stuck in the stuff I created is right after this wait. We're waiting for us to do something. It's going to make a sound. And then we're going to capture and show the pin on screen, to which then it'll be waiting for the next input. So I purposely wedged it in here before all the other code that's a part of the example to see what happens. If I did this correctly, it should capture all 4 numbers and then display them to the screen. We're going to see if that actually happens. Okay, so I'm going to click A button. I'll click star. Okay, so I did. And then did I add anything in here to actually tell me to start typing? I did not. So it's actually waiting for additional input. So let me put that in there. So it is waiting for input, but there's no message to the terminal because I didn't add one. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's back 202. And then it says enter pin to continue because I clicked pound, or excuse me, I clicked star. So it half worked. I got 202. That's not a result I necessarily anticipated, but it returned back to me a double. And interestingly enough, I wonder if I can view, since the code has been run, what is in those. Let's scroll back up here. I don't think you could see the current value in here. That's something that is nice. Yeah, anywhere between 0 and big numbers. All right, let's see here. We've got I'm gonna maximize this again. All right, for right now, no, it's gonna be the other way. It's where is it? Oh, I need to see how you do a block comment. There was a block comment in the example. How was that? It was /star. I'll call. I'm purposely going to just comment out the rest of the example so we could toy with this and it not doing bad things to us. Because I'm to the point now I want to make this work. So first things first, we're going to add a statement in our capture pin, which I'm going to also collapse the validate pin because we're not worried about that right now. This significantly reduces what we're looking at. A lot less scrolling up and down. Okay, so we're going to say please enter your pin when we're trying to capture it. So then that tells the user that we need something. We'll then put in the 4 numbers. And then I don't think it's an issue with this function that reveals it to the screen. I think we have an issue immediately with the way I captured it. So just to confirm that, I'm going to capture it in the loop. And then as we're typing it, I'm going to print it out to the screen so we can see what we're seeing. So then that way we could see on this second iteration what this is doing. Because I don't think it's doing what I thought it was going to. But that's okay. That's why we test. So I'm going to clear the terminal. I'm going to validate the code. I'm going to run the code. Okay. And then we're going to click any button to continue. And then please enter your PIN. So I'm going to enter 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. Well, that actually gives me some insight into what's happening here. And I think I know why. At least I think I know why. So it added together these numeric values that we got back. But the keypad is not a double. Keypad is a different type because it also can have these as well. So this is chars. So let us change the way this is behaving. You always have to work with like variable types. If you are capturing a char, you want to store it in a char. If you're capturing an integer, you want to store it in an integer. If you change them or cast type, you're going to cause problems for yourself, like I've caused myself right here. So capture pin is not a double, it is a char. Now it's a group of chars, but I think if I stitch them together the way I did, I think I could still get away with it. I also would like to just declare that empty and not actually declare it as something. I'll see if I can get away with that. Please enter your PIN. And then the button press is already a char. It's being stored in a char. And then we'll see what happens. It's going to return a char, which then means we want this to be accepting. It's going to be a group of chars. I don't know if I could do this, but we're going to try anyway. Because in my mind, a char would generally indicate an individual value, which I don't necessarily know is true, because you probably could have more than one char in the same variable. Let's see if it compiles. I feel like I'm talking Greek at this point, even to myself. We're gonna see what happens. This may or may not give us what I'm hoping for, but we're gonna find out here in a minute. All right, so I'm gonna press some button to continue. Doesn't matter which one. Okay, and I'm gonna enter 1, 2, 3, and 4. Well, I have definitely made it worse. That's exciting. What was, I'm not what, Gray? I'm not making it worse. I feel like I've made it worse. I've definitely made it worse. I think that's in part because of the way I tried to capture this. Talking Greek. Okay, that's fair. I see what you did there. Well, I'm talking something. I'm talking Protogen, which is equally as bad. But I was kind of genuinely curious to see how badly I could break this. To open the code. Oh, come on now. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as what I'm doing to it. I have packed it in a suitcase and I'm kicking it down the road. I'm not worried about that. I've collapsed it. Alright, this doesn't return anything, but it just simply prints it to the screen. I think it's I don't know if I necessarily should have casted that as a char. What if string's an option? Yeah, it doesn't look to be the case. Alright. That's fine, I'll ask the internet. I could be the first one to think of this. The string 13, you can use other bases for example. Well, I don't want to do that. I know what I'm looking for. Can't be this far to find. I think the return will have to be a string. Because I'm under the fearfulness that a char is a single character, not multiple. I think that's why I'm getting such strange results in the terminal. Oh, well, I could do it that way. I don't know how poorly it'll go, but we could try. I can do an array of chars, which is technically a string. Alright, that should unbrick that. I have to actually change a couple of things here. Alright, so char capture pin. Pin length. So if I do it this way, it would help if I put that in the right place. I can make an array of chars with a length of 4, technically, which means I'll have an extra space because it would be 0 through 3, but I kind of don't care at this point. I'm fine if there's an extra in there for right now. Just want to see if this will work. So then we'll say button character, and then we'll drop the index in here. Of the position. So for position 0, it'll be equal to the button character. So then I should be able to return the array of chars with this function. Button character. We'll print it on each click to see if that works. Alright, let's try this. I still have to fix the rest of it, but I just want to see if this part works. If this works correctly, then we should be able to see... Oop, hang on a minute. There we go. After I do that, we should be able to click buttons and see them in real time, but then I'd have to fix the function that does everything else. All right, let's see if this works. So if I click a button and then enter the pin of 1, 2, 3, we'll say A because I want A. Yeah, okay. Right. Now, there's also one more in there, which I think is where that came into play here. Oh wait, no, that was my function that I haven't fixed yet. That broken character. Okay, all right, now this works. This 100% works. Okay, so I'm going to explain myself, but let's fix the rest of it. Char, right, and then I told this to print to the screen the array without an index number, which don't work. So the best way to get around that would be to steal this for loop, put it up here, snag that. And then just remove the part where it would print a new line. So then I pass the array of chars over. And then print them one at a time using the loop. And they're all on the same line, so actually here, to actually get them so that there's a blank line between, we're just going to do a new line first. Howdy, Intez. Oh, I broke something. What did I do? It's probably the way I did this. Class hardware serial has no number, print NL. Oh, the new line, I wrote that backwards, didn't I? I did, didn't I? Yeah, it's LN. Dyslexic moment, go! Capture pin was not declared in the scope. You're correct. You're right. It wasn't. Because I'm using a different name for it over here. Alright, what did I do to it now? Invalid types, char int for array subscript. Well, it's an array of chars I brought over here, no? That's what I brought over here. What did I bring over here? I brought over here problems, including myself. Alright, so I fixed the new line. It's this it's got an issue with. Dot print. Invalid types char int for array subscript. Doesn't like the I. Invalid types char int for array subscript. I think my head just exploded. The radiator fluid's gonna start leaking out of me here soon. Well, it's a char and I return a char, right? Because this function, capture pin, which I did prove works. Captured pin and the index number is captured there, and then I printed that. Captured pin, pin length. Right, I declared that there. And then up here, it's called a current pin. Invalid types for a subscript. You know what? I wonder if it doesn't return the whole array. I just gave it... No, I'm actually surprisingly okay. My brain's a little fried, but I think I'm okay for right now. Thank you for asking, though. I know this is something simple I'm missing. I'm just gonna make sure. It shouldn't be this. No, I didn't think so. It's weird because it's having an issue with the subscript, which... See, that fixes it, but I don't think that's going to give me what I want. Because I supplied index positions here. Because it's an array. Right, type char 4. What do you return, though? Captured pin. Oh, this is definitely messing with me. Alright, hold up a minute. So, captured pin is an array of chars, right? Yeah, I have here, right here, to show on each button press what it captured, which I showed that it's fixed. But it returns this, which we know is a char, or it's supposed to be a char. So let me see the way I'm capturing it. Maybe that's where I boofed it. Type char 4. Captured pin. Alright, so let's go back up here where we actually use it. I bet you I screwed it up here. Because I initially started with doubles. Yeah, that's definitely not going to work. It's a char. I also don't want to declare it with anything. I'd rather it just be like that, which I think I can get away with. Yep. Alright, so it's going to start up as a char, and then captured pin is captured as a char. Right, and then I call the function reveal pin as char, which I think actually here, let me put that back. I think that's correct now. No, it doesn't like that. Alright, well let me just try to run it and see what it returns. Because I'm kind of suspicious. I'm kind of suspicious it's still going to be broken, but let's see how. Alright, so I'm going to press a button to get started. And then the pin of 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was my fourth click. There's the fourth click, and then there was an enter. And then it returned 4 squares. So it looks like it did actually iterate through the 4 positions, just not in a meaningful way. Interesting. So I kind of half broke it and half unbroke it. Capture pin equals captured pin. Well, here, you know what? Let's spit to the screen this. So I'm going to come back up here. And I'm going to say... That's where I capture it. And then immediately after I capture it, I'm just going to ask it to spit out to the screen. I'm just going to manually pull its four positions. And I'm going to comment out the code that would normally run to run the reveal pin. So let me compile that. Interesting. Now, was it every position? Yeah, it was every position. It doesn't like any of them. Invalid types chart in for array subscript. Alright, well, I guess the question is then... Because I proved that I could capture it. I think the issue is with the return statement. I'm wondering if it won't return an array. Or maybe I have to tell it it's in an array? Oh, nope, that's red now too. Alright, hang on, let me check what is the proper way to return. An array of chars. That might be part of my problem. Void loop. Okay, so my idea just wasn't functional. It looks like the idea of passing I guess the way to do this is I would have to actually run that code to capture each pin number one at a time, store it, and then pass it to the function one at a time. Looks like the return on a function can only be one thing, not an array of things, which I did not know. So the idea of this returning anything wouldn't really do us any good. So to mop this up a bit, we're not going to return anything. We're simply going to just write it to the screen, get rid of this function because it doesn't do anything. It's fundamentally flawed. And pull that out as well. Oh, that's because I converted this to a void function, so there's nothing to capture. Okay, so now, to actually do this the way I want, this should actually be fairly easy to do. I'll have it loop through capturing all of them. And then once I've captured all the digits, inside of the same void loop, or the void function, excuse me, outside of the loop action, I'm going to print out to the terminal, for starters, a blank line. And then I'm going to manually spit out. Oh, something happened. What happened? We got raided by Patch. I'm gonna try to say the last name. Arcadia? Patch Arcadia, I think. I apologize if I mispronunciated your name. I don't do too well with those. The mood of something. All right, I appreciate that. What were you up to? Welcome on in. You are a new name. I have not seen you here before. Welcome on in. We have I'm melting brains, including my own at this point, to be honest with you. This was an example, and I made it worse. I made it so much worse. Yes. This is the Lost in Space Arduino learning thingy. We did step 12A or day 12A, which was the Rickroll. That is 100% how this madness began. And then we jumped into day 13, where we've been programming a keypad. And I got the bright idea to try to make this more complicated than it needed to be, because that's what I do. Yes, that's exactly what I do, but it's okay. I'm working through this to the conclusion that I want, which we're going to get to here shortly. I don't know if I can get away with commas. We're trying a lot of different things that I'm trying to get away with. You're gonna see here in a minute. We're gonna see if this works. I don't know if it's gonna work. Let's first check and see if it compiles. It might not like the commas. Oh, it doesn't like the commas. Then maybe I switch this with plus symbols. I know you could put multiple variables together in the same serial section. Haha! Okay, alright, I'm on to something. So it's gonna print a new line. It should print the pin. And then we'll put I'm gonna engross it in new lines. This is gonna be on the same line. And then we're also gonna do asterisks on the beginning and end of the pin to make it kind of stand out a little bit better in the terminal. And this is just personal preference at this point. Like that. Or maybe not. Did I miss a... I wonder if it doesn't like the way I did that. Invalid operands of type constant char and char string. Oh, really? It won't let me do them on the same thing? Okay, that's fine. It doesn't need to. A fast compile? I mean, I don't have that many lines of code. At least not yet. Alright, it's content with that. So to get what I want, I have to do it. I have to do this slightly differently. I'm gonna get what I want. I just have to do it a different way. I have to do it this way. You can't stop me, compiler. I'm gonna get this. Alright, so it's gonna be a new line. It's gonna be 2 asterisks, the 4-digit pin, and then 2 more asterisks in a new line to make it just kind of chunk off into a little chunk of code that's malleable. like what's left of my sanity at this point. All right, I'm gonna send the code. I'm gonna drink some tea. Everybody should drink some fluids of some kind, preferably the good ones. Okay, oh, hang on, let me clear the terminal and re-upload. I just don't want to confuse anything from several minutes ago with right now. Okay, so I'm going to click a button to start us off. And then I'm going to enter my PIN of 1, 2, 3, 4. I broke it. And I know what it did. It did math. It I wanted to do this. It should be easy to fix. All right, hang on. I could fix this. I don't want to, but I have to because it's going to drive me bonkers otherwise. If I don't use the plus symbols, I don't want to join them together. I just want to use multiple on the same line. It actually added the chars together. That's why we got such a strange result. It's okay. That's what the nerd is here for, to do nerd things. In a very nerdy-like fashion. Even though I'm going to put them on separate lines, they technically will print all on the same line. This should allow me to get around the problems I'm causing myself. This is also not the most efficient way to do this, but I'm not looking for efficiency, I'm looking for functionality at this point. And yeah. What did I do? I have an extra thing in there. Alright. No extra square brace. And we go again! I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna melt my brains. Alright, enter my PIN. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ha ha! Okay, it worked. It worked, and I showed it to the screen. So right there, I typed 1, 2, 3, 4, and the way I got around the problem I just caused myself is the serial print line was actually adding together the chars. I'm calling them chars because there are letters on this keypad. If I do this again by just clicking another button to restart the code and then put in A, B, C, D, I get on the screen A, B, C, D, which is why we didn't get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We didn't get 10 a moment ago. We got 202. Because if you add together the chars of 1, 2, 3, 4, you get a decimal 202. I realize that doesn't sound like it makes any kind of functional sense, but look at adding chars together, because you can add letters and numbers together, because they're chars, they're not numbers. It doesn't return a reusable result, but it will do it. Which, this is the perfect example. Thank you, Pyrex. It is well done. In my brain is also well done at this point. We cooking straight up. Is there something burning in here? Oh wait, that's just me. Oh my goodness. Ooh, thank you, Patch, for the follow. I appreciate it. We melt brains here. We do educational tidbits, and I do retro games too, which tonight was definitely on the melting of the brains side of the category. I knew I could get this, and this 100% was just a case of determination. Now, something I would like to ask for those that would be willing to give me an answer in chat is, do you like seeing real time me toying with the code? Because I have been debating on what I want to do next when I finish the 30 Days Lost in Space. Because I'm gonna be honest, I don't really have decent commentary when I'm actually trying to figure out the problem and I'm working through it. It's just a lot of ahs and ums over the course of like an hour and a half, which the whole VOD alone is closer to 3. But I'm curious if whether you think the unstructured stuff is just as entertaining, or hell, if I'm just in the background, hi mom, might not be my mom, might be your mom, regardless, hello. Hey, if anybody is driving in traffic right now, say hello to everybody in traffic. Probably not moving, which is fair. Not necessarily. I'm debating about doing another. We still have plenty left for this, but moving forward, I was thinking about doing another one of the 30 Days Lost in Space style kits. Crafting table. The people who make this kit do have others, and they're more advanced, and I'm thinking they're kind of up my alley. So I'm thinking that that's going to be a thing. Yes, another developmental board style thing with different bobs and ends, capacitors and other tidbits of electricity that I do want to try to take on. But I also do want to do some freeform style projects where I actually make the thing, where we talk about the project, the goal, making the design, and then building it, and then going through the process of testing and debugging. My goal is to get familiar enough with the IDE known as the Arduino, and then be able to launch off of that. I have a couple of small projects that I already know in the back of my head that would be great from what I've learned thus far. I 100% would love to have something like that, Pyrex. I'm gonna need to get more familiar with the way that the Twitch handles function to be able to get any kind of IRL code to behave with real-time technology, because I would actually love to have like colored lights or something, and to make it so that the colored lights could be modified by chat. Something like that I think would be super fun, but there's a lot of I don't know mixed into that. Hi Luna, welcome on in. I've been cooking brains, including my own, for a little while here, talking on code. Yeah, Patch, that's exactly what my thought is, because I was looking at some of the stuff here, trying to get along the idea of, now it didn't go anywhere, and I don't anticipate it going anywhere, but the I liked the idea of having like a reminder for tech redeem, where you type in your message and then like a little thermal receipt printer would spit out the piece of paper. The idea of trying to figure out how to handle with the APIs, pulling that out of code, and also making sure it's sanitized so nothing poor happens, is involved. Less involved if you're willing to borrow other folks' libraries, but still a hefty lift. Right. And I know for a fact I would be leveraging other existing code, because I think I'm half decent at doing this kind of stuff, but it's heavy. Well, for right now, I'm leaning towards the electronic side for right now. And I do have some virtualization I also want to look at for next ideas, because there's a lot of cool stuff I'm thinking, upcoming ideas. Proxmox, that's a VM hosted style of appliance where you can make virtual computers in a virtual space on real hardware, which it's similar to like setting up just a regular virtual box, but the entire environment and operating system is virtual. So that's kind of in different directions. I don't know, my brain's a little scattered at the moment. I think I saw that one. I think I tried with that. I think I had trouble getting the API key to function with it. Yeah, it was with subs. Yeah, no, I have seen that one. I think that's a decent idea, decently part of what gave me the idea was to kind of do my own. Because I know that one was available to be like mixed in with other things. So there's that. I am unsure. But I know there's definitely gonna be a lot more tinkering in the future. So there's that. I don't know. This is true. Do we know by chance if Twitter or Blue Sky have the ability to do polls? I'm not looking to do one here right this minute, but I am debating about tossing up a poll on the social medias to check and see what people are feeling. Yeah, it looks like you can. I'm thinking I might throw a poll up on my my social media and let it just marinate for a little bit of time and see what kind of replies I got. Cause I don't know. I kind of want to get an opinion, and I kind of like to let it just marinate and be an open space for the immediate future. That's fair. It's all right. I really just use both of those social media platforms to talk about this. I'm going live, yay! And other goofy things that I find. So I'm on there, same name. Also in the bio if any of you are interested in seeing the goofy things that I post on the internet. So there be that. Let me see here. I'm curious to see who is currently doing stuff right now. Thank you, Pyrex. I appreciate it. For everybody else, give me a moment. I'm going to rate us all out to another being here. I'm just going to figure out who that's going to be. Because I'm pretty sure there's another cafe member that I saw that was on right now. And they are, in fact, still on. Okay, cool. Looks like they're playing a game called Snake Pass. So we're gonna run with that quite literally. As for the raid message, we're gonna do this. Once I put my emotes in here. Okay, so we'll do that for a raid message. If anybody's interested. And with that, I'm going to start us with a raid here. We are going to go over to our owl friend. They're currently playing Snake Pass, which looks like a very fun little goofy game. Very exciting. And with that, I would thank you all for stopping by. Dragons, if you're still floating around, thank you again for the raid. Indeed. Patch is also, again, or excuse me, Patch, thank you for the raid as well. To all is appreciated. And with that, I will be back next Wednesday, doing something else goofy on the internet. We might go retro next week. We'll see. I like mixing it up. A little bit of mixing content. Always a good time, you know? And with that, enjoy the rest of your time zone, everyone. Bye-bye.